So you bought Coca-Cola. Congratulations. At the market value we checked before recording, buying every share would cost something like $350 billion. Your new company collected almost $48 billion last year. That is more than $130 million a day, more than $5 million an hour, more than $1,500 every second. And while you heard those numbers, people around the world consumed tens of thousands of servings carrying Coca-Cola owned or licensed trademarks. Every second, you expect your accountants to show you the greatest soda factory. Instead, they show you a sentence that sounds impossible. The company whose name appears on the bottle often did not own the factory that filled it, the truck that carried it, or the refrigerator that made it cold. Coca-Cola became one of history's most valuable consumer businesses without personally moving most of the liquid. So if you did not spend $350 billion on bottles, trucks, and fizzy water, what exactly did you buy? By the end of this video, you will know. And the answer may be hiding inside one of your memories. Chapter 1. The product that exists before the product walk into a restaurant and order a burger. The server asks, "Is Coke okay?" Nobody explains what Coke is. The word reaches your brain before the drink reaches your table. That is the first machine you bought. Recognition. A new beverage company can copy the color, bubbles, and sweetness. What it cannot copy overnight is the moment when a customer sees red and already knows what should happen next. Meet Maya. When she was 8, her father bought her a cold Coke after every Saturday football game. She does not remember the price. She barely remembers the scores, but she remembers twisting the cap while her father drove home. Now, Maya is 32. She sees Coca-Cola in a supermarket refrigerator. She believes she is choosing a drink. Part of her is choosing Saturday. That emotion is real. But it is not accidental. Coca-Cola spends billions placing its brand beside meals, music, sport, friendship, holidays, and happiness. Do that long enough, and the product begins borrowing emotion from the moment. You are not merely advertising a beverage, you are teaching the customer what the beverage is supposed to feel like. Chapter 2. Marco buys the trucks. Now meet Marco. Marco runs a bottling operation. You sell him concentrate or syrup. Marco adds water, and, depending on the drink, sweetener, and carbonation. Then Marco buys bottles, cans, equipment, warehouses, fuel, trucks. He fills the packages. He moves the weight. He handles broken machinery, damaged cases, and late drivers. You focus on brands, formulas, marketing, innovation, and leadership of the system. Marco performs much of the expensive physical work. Coca-Cola still owns some finished product operations and bottling investments, so the company is not asset light. But the broader system relies heavily on bottling partners, distributors, retailers, restaurants, and convenience stores. This is the contradiction. Your logo is everywhere. Your trucks do not have to be. A full truck looks like the business, but the better position is controlling the thing that gives every truck a reason to leave the warehouse. Marco manufactures the drink. You manufacture the demand. Chapter 3. The most important ingredient is cold. Marco calls with good news. Your bottles reached the supermarket. Then he sends a photo. They are warm, hidden near the floor, behind a cheaper competitor. This is not good news. Coca-Cola is not only competing on flavor, it is competing for moments. Lunch, a cinema, a road trip, a football match. A stressful Tuesday when someone opens the office refrigerator and needs 30 quiet seconds. The winning beverage is often the one visible, available, and cold when desire appears. So the Coca-Cola system fights for restaurant menus, vending locations, checkout coolers, stadiums, gas stations, and refrigerator space. A shopper standing in an aisle may compare prices. A thirsty customer beside a cold red refrigerator is negotiating with nobody. Advertising creates desire. Distribution catches it before it disappears. Marco is not merely delivering bottles, he is placing your brand inside billions of tiny decisions. And cold is not a temperature, it is a sales strategy. Chapter 4. The same drink. 6 different businesses. The same Coca-Cola experience appears as a supermarket bottle, mini can, fountain cup, glass bottle, vending machine purchase, or airport drink priced as if it includes priority boarding. The liquid may be similar. The occasion is not. At home, Maya buys volume. At a restaurant, convenience. At a cinema, emotional support during a movie that should have ended 40 minutes ago. At an airport, she buys because security removed cheaper alternatives. You are pricing package, temperature, location, portion, urgency, and mood. Growth does not always require dramatically more liquid. Sometimes the same thirst becomes more valuable in a smaller can, a better location, or a moment when the customer is less interested in negotiating. Marco pays more for packaging and fuel. The retailer wants its margin. And Maya only sees that her bottle became 20 cents more expensive. The formula is standardized. The willingness to pay is not. Chapter 5. Your greatest strength is also the threat your executives place. Sprite, Fanta, water, coffee, sports drinks, and zero sugar products across the table. Your office now looks like a convenience store having an identity crisis. Why own so many drinks? Because your greatest strength is one famous product, and your greatest risk is also one famous product. Preferences change. Some customers want less sugar, some want smaller portions. Some want water, coffee, hydration, energy, or something that did not exist when Coca-Cola was created. Every customer who leaves regular Coke does not automatically move to Coke Zero. They may leave your system completely. That is the real threat. Your job is not to freeze customers in the past, it is to preserve the relationship while their choices evolve. Maya may choose regular Coke at a barbecue, Coke Zero at lunch, and water after exercise. You are not fighting for one bottle. You are fighting to remain behind her next decision. Chapter 6. You can outsource work, not blame. The bottling network gives you worldwide reach without requiring one corporation to own every factory and route. But it creates a dangerous imbalance. Marco owns the truck, the retailer owns the refrigerator, the restaurant owns the fountain machine. When something goes wrong, the customer sees your name. Nobody posts, Marco's independent bottling operation disappointed me today. They post, Coca-Cola failed. A truck you do not own can damage a brand you do. One local mistake can damage a promise the company spent decades and billions building worldwide. So your empire is held together by contracts, quality standards, relationships, and one expectation. You can outsource the weight. You cannot outsource the reputation. Who gets rich first? Marco earns money manufacturing and distributing. Retailers earn their margin. Restaurants turn syrup into fountain drinks. Advertising companies receive billions to keep the emotion alive. Then your company earns from concentrates, syrups, finished products, brands, and investments across the system. But the strangest asset never appears inside a warehouse. It exists inside the customer's mind. The rich Ray owner. Score money, 9 out of 10. Global brands and worldwide demand without personally delivering most servings. Control, 7 out of 10. You lead the system, but partners control much of the final journey. Sleep, 6 out of 10. Billions of daily servings create billions of chances for a local problem to wear your global logo. Legacy, 10 out of 10. Your product appears in family photographs, stadiums, road trips, celebrations, and arguments about whether Coke tastes better from glass. Final score, 8.5 out of 10. The final reveal. You thought you bought a beverage company. You bought a demand company. Coca-Cola creates recognition before the customer becomes thirsty. Advertising connects recognition to emotion. Marco manufactures and moves much of the liquid. Retailers provide the shelf. Restaurants provide the occasion. Cold turns desire into urgency. And the customer provides the most valuable ingredient. Memory. The recipe matters. Distribution matters. But the real advantage appears 1 second before purchase. Maya sees red. She hears the cap opening in her imagination. She already knows how the moment should feel. That is why a competitor can imitate the drink and still fail to replace it. Coca-Cola does not merely sell something people consume, it attaches itself to moments people keep. So, congratulations. You bought Coca-Cola. Marco bought another truck, your marketing department bought another billion impressions, and Maya bought Saturday afternoon with her father for $2. Now tell me honestly, what does Coca-Cola remind you of? A family dinner? A road trip? A football game? A corner store? Or was your house loyal to Pepsi? Whatever answer appeared first, that is the business.